Just a few hours back, in Virginia Championships 2023, Stanley Chappell from the USA broke his 25th world record with a time of 2 minutes 4 seconds .441, so 410 milliseconds. This was on the third solve. On the first solve as well, he broke the world record, and the second one was a 220 DNF. So that would have made a potential world record mean and would have beaten his previous 2019 world record of 227 mean. Let's jump right into the solve and see how he just produces a flawless solve, near flawless solve, and makes sub 2 minutes in 5BLD possible. The memo time is around 42 seconds, which is like, I think world's best. It's world's best officially number 2 after Hilpong's 42-second memo, which he did about a year back. We are right now into the execution. Stanley Chappell follows the execution order of doing plus centers first, and then X centers, and then he does corners, and then he does midges, and finally wing, and then while finishing off wing, he does wing parity, and he does weak swap of wings, so that if there is a corner parity, then he is able to just do a J-perm or few of the 3BLD parity algs to solve the cube. Many of the algs on 3BLD do not work on 5BLD, and many of the 4BLD algs do not fill right on the 5BLD. So 5BLD is a very tricky event. It's 4 cubes worth of memo that you have to do, so about 43 letter pairs. So he's nearing the end of the solve. He does have corner parity, but he does not have wing parity, which does save a bit of time. So right now the weak swap is done, and he's doing a variant of a Y-perm and finishes the solve, and a really good reaction. So let's look at the solve and at the execution part at a very slower pace. So let's go a bit slower. We are now at the end of the memo. You see the knot down happening, and the plus centers are being executed. What you can see is there is slightly below the table execution, but 5BLD demands a lot of accurate turning. So if you can see, there was a mini pop right here. I do not know the cube. It's most probably Auchong WRM. I'm not 100% sure, but it's what Hilpong also uses, the WR2 holder from Malaysia, who has a 219 official, and he's just 15 seconds away from Stanley Chappell. Stanley Chappell this year, it is his, I guess, second world record, third world record this summer in 5BLD, which is really cool. And you can see that he has performed quite well in 4BLD as well. In this competition, he got a 59-second solve in 4BLD, as well as a really good MBLD score, and he got a 16.00 PR 3BLD mean, which is also great. The judge is a very trusted competitor. He's holding a paper in between, making sure that peeking isn't possible. The venue was really good. As we can see, there are round tables kept everywhere, G5 timers. There were a lot of delegates for this competition. The scramble has not been shared by the delegates yet. It's a 4-day competition, but as soon as the competition is over, Blake Thompson and a bunch of junior delegates there would happily be sharing the scramble so that I can post the reconstruction. Now we are towards the midge execution. You can see that there are a few lockups in the midge execution, but what you can see is there are no pauses, and for 4.5 cube worth of memo, if you do not have pauses in your execution, it's really cool. Also, what you're doing in 5BLD is you're not just doing a 4 out of 4 MBLD attempt. You are also trying to trace things, and also during execution you're going to figure out parity at each piece type. There are 5 piece types, so you're going to figure out parities at each piece type. So this is one of the most interesting part that Stanley is doing right now. He's executing wings, and wing it's like beautiful piece type, lot of optimizations possible. We are just near the end of the like his wing comps. We see that there is weak swap done, and I guess he did a floating wing com. I'm not sure, because he does know floating X centers, and he does no floating wings. He's just done with the solve, finishes it out. He does not use a earmuff, but he quickly just checks the scramble without touching, but removes his blindfold. The judge is startled seeing a world record again, and that's it. So yeah, I'm like stupefied by this world record. I know Stanley does have an insane amount of dedication. He is really a hardworking cuber in all 17 events. But what I liked the most about this world record was that he was, just before the world record, he posted on his story that he's not expecting any result from this attempt. So that's one mentality which may work. And Stanley is really big when it comes to mentality. He thinks keeping PBs is not a good idea because it all depends on the mentality, your practice, your flow, your form going in that day. So just keeping track of PB just pressurizes the person. It's all about mentality. Also, he's a musician, which means that everything needs to be articulated, figured out, and improvised as well, so that if things go wrong, there always is a way to make it look right. So he's a violinist, which makes sure that he also understands a lot of things related to precision, the subtleties, and this event of 5BLD is full of subtleties, and it takes him 2 minutes to solve, but the world's average in this event of 5BLD is the world's average is around, I guess, 10-15 minutes, I guess. Yeah, and I'm about 2.5 times slower than Stanley, which tells that how much effort is required to produce a 5BLD solve, and it's not easy to get a success. It's way easier to get 4 out of 4 MBLD in a competition as compared to a 5BLD, because it involves more accurate turning, more knowledge of algs. There are 5 piece types. Also, it requires tracing to be fairly accurate. It's also a nerve-wracking event because you just only get 3 solves, and if you DNF the first one, it really goes downhill quickly. We are again going through the execution. I just want to show some things that I missed during my first blabbering session. What we are seeing is his X centers execution. You can see that how carefully he moves the layer. He's not using any flicks. The flick does work in 4BLD, but in 5BLD it's always safe. If you do not flick, you can flick, but it just depends on hardware and a lot of things. So now he is going to the corner section. It's RUD Gen Algs, really easy to spam. He's almost done with the corners. He's now going to the midges. So the midges are a very difficult piece type. I hate midges on a 5x5 because the algs aren't that great. A lot of 3BLD algs do not go there. 5-style algs do not work on midges. They are trash on midges. Many of them do not work because they are not center safe. Even after you do the centers, it destroys 4 plus centers. Yeah, so he's done with the midges, going seamless transition to wings. For wings, he uses UFR buffer. There was a slight pop there, which tells that Auchong WRM cube might be just like too loose sometimes. I had a triple DNF recently officially when I used MGC cube, and I hated using it. And right after I used MGC cube, I used the Walk 5 and I got a mean. So hardware is really important in 5BLD, I have to say sometimes. This last alg was, I guess, 4 gen or 5 gen, which isn't great, but yeah, it involved a weird setup. I guess it was one of the harder algs. Now he's doing the final corner target as well as UFUR swap at the top in one alg. He does very careful turning to finish. Compared to 3BLD, he has to be more careful while turning so as to not overshoot, undershoot, and so on, and not cross any slice mistakes, which is very easy. Yeah, so overall, a really good attempt. I'm really happy about Stanley Chapel. I can't wait for Hilpong and Stanley Chapel to break the sub 2 barrier. I personally want to get there, but I do not have the time, effort, money, mentality, attitude to get there anytime soon. Thank you for watching, and I hope to voice over any of the future world records.